Hi there, Jessie here. In 2013, I was in a life-changing car accident. I learned the hard way that it's very common for brain injury and trauma survivors to become overwhelmed. When I experienced difficult emotions like anxiety, I had a much more exaggerated reaction than I had before my accident. What used to give me 2 to 4 level stress gave me 8 to 10 level stress. I also became overwhelmed by stimulation, noise, light, lots of thinking, and I would simply shut down. Over time, I have learned a whole host of terms and concepts that have helped me understand why I freak out and shut down, and how I can get out of overwhelm and back to calm clarity. One day, all these overlapping terms gelled in my mind in a map of merging nervous system concepts. Understanding these connections is helpful to everyone, whether you have a brain injury or not. First, concentric circles represent zones of nervous system arousal. I've conceptualized these zones a bit differently than others have, but the basic concepts are the same. 1. The further out we go, the more our nervous system becomes aroused. We move from feeling calm in the center to the total freakout or total shutdown at the outer edge. 2. We need to be able to go in and out of all of these zones because they each have a role to play in keeping us safe and healthy. The problem is that we tend to spend too much time in some zones and not enough in others. The green zone is our calm center. Here we are at our most settled and relaxed. This is the parasympathetic nervous system response where we rest, digest, and repair. In the blue zone, we are in flow. We are responsive. We make wise choices and take skillful action. We are productive and think clearly. The purple zone is where we learn. We are also responsive and regulated, but we're stretching out of the comfort of the green and blue zones, taking in new information and gaining new skills. Layered on top of these 3 zones is the window of tolerance. In our window, we can tolerate or handle what life throws us without becoming overwhelmed. We feel responsive, regulated, and resilient. We see clearly the range of choices before us, and thus we respond wisely to whatever life throws us. When we perceive danger, whether it's in the present or a memory, we get thrown out of our window of tolerance. Whether we face minor stressors like a looming deadline or major stressors that put us in mortal danger, our nervous system reacts basically the same. It's just the intensity that varies. Our nervous system becomes either hyper or hypoaroused, or it fluctuates between the two. Hyperarousal is a sympathetic nervous system response. This is fight or flight. We mobilize to fight an adversary or flee from danger. We feel agitated, anxious, afraid, angry, or hypervigilant. Hypoarousal is a parasympathetic nervous system response. This is freeze. We immobilize by essentially playing dead and numbing ourselves from pain. We feel shut down, numb, spacey, foggy, depressed, or disassociated. In both hyper and hypoarousal, we experience automatic physiological reactions. For example, our heart rate and breathing speed up, and logical thinking goes offline. These don't feel very good, but they are survival mechanisms that ensure we take quick action in the face of danger. Outside our window of tolerance, there are the less intense pink zone and the very intense red zone. The pink zone is a steady drip of stress. We are unsettled. We are becoming reactive. Rather than responding skillfully and making wise choices, we react automatically in knee-jerk, unskillful ways. Many of us spend an awful lot of time in the pink zone. It's almost a badge of honor. How are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy, so stressed. We go from overactivity all day to crashing in the evening, rarely going to the rest and digest state of the green zone. In the pink zone, we are constantly secreting stress hormones that are meant for moments of real danger, not for chronic exposure. So people who spend a lot of time in the pink zone often end up with chronic illnesses. Sometimes, though, staying in the pink zone is a matter of survival. People in a war zone or in an abusive relationship need the vigilance of the pink zone to keep them safe at all times. Lastly, there's the red zone of overwhelm. The purpose of the red zone is to mobilize our bodies so that we can react more quickly than we can think to keep us safe. I experienced the wisdom of the red zone when I almost walked into a skunk. Immediately my muscles fired and I ran. If I'd stopped to think, I would have been sprayed, but my body knew what to do to keep me safe. Once I was away from the skunk, I quickly went out of the red zone into the blue zone of flow. Brain injury and trauma compromise our ability to regulate our nervous system properly. We tend to go to the pink and red zones when we don't need to. Our injured brain doesn't function properly, and our traumatized body acts as though we are still in grave danger. So we go out of our window of tolerance often and quickly. We sink in deeply. We stay there too long, and we find it hard to get out. The overwhelming feelings can be terrifying. In my website, mindfulconcussion.ca, I share strategies and skills I have learned to help me when I go into overwhelm. Through trauma-sensitive mindfulness, we learn to attune to the early warning signals this body gives us, rather than ignoring them until they become alarm bells. We ask ourselves, where am I on the map? What number am I on the arousal meter? What do I need now? We learn that we have agency. We can get out of hyper and hypoarousal to where, like Goldilocks, we are just right in the sweet spot of calm clarity within our window of tolerance.